The two things that surprised me the most about the Revelations DLC for Doom: The Dark Ages were just how different the game would feel, and the fact that reportedly nearly 100 people were laid off by Microsoft at id Software the day before the DLC launched. Yes, before I talk about this incredible new Doom expansion that should be all good news, we are in the unfortunate position of having to discuss the far more unfortunate position of Microsoft's multi-studio massacre and the future of one of the last great original FPS studios still with us. If you'd like to skip the preamble about the layoffs and community concerns about the future of id Software and just get to the DLC talk, please skip to this time. I know not everyone cares about this stuff, but I want to get it out of the way right now. I'm pissed off, and I'm worried, because the people we've seen let go have been there for so long. Many were senior members and leads of their areas, programmers of the id Tech engine, artists, every area got hit hard apparently. There are conflicting reports about numbers, just how much of the team is gone, but look, it's brutal. id Software published a statement saying they've worked with this size studio before when they were making Doom 2016, and they're going forward making great games and tech, suggesting that they're still using the id Tech engine going forward. So, I don't know. I don't know what to think about what's gonna happen in the future, but I personally have doubts that we'll get something as grand scale as Doom: The Dark Ages again. Part of me is okay with that. I mean, I didn't need dragon levels, mech levels, and epic long cutscenes bookending a campaign of 22 levels, nearly twice the count of previous games. I'm okay with a slimmer and denser experience if that's what the result is. But I worry, considering just how many talented people are gone, and knowing that Microsoft could further cripple them or even close them someday. I don't know. If they can do this, why can't they do worse? I know the Dark Ages didn't have the sales of the generational accomplishment Doom Eternal, and it must have had a pretty big budget, but it hit 3 million players on Game Pass really fast, like way faster than Eternal did, and Xbox's model was to push Game Pass, right? So if the game did what they wanted in the bigger picture, why are they punishing the studio for it? Just because a new CEO comes in and realizes that model was a mistake? I think cutting all these valuable, hard-working veteran people is a huge mistake. But even as a huge fan of the new Dooms, I can also admit that the Dark Ages was the most controversial to date, with a parry mechanic, throwing out Eternal's mobility, and questionable marketing tactics that incorrectly portrayed the Dark Ages as being very slow and overly concerned about general audiences. Toss in the RTX requirement on PC that alienated some fans, and the Mick Gordon accusations turning some people against the studio, a price jump to $70 or $80, day one Game Pass access. There's a lot of factors that led to the Dark Ages performance being what it was. So, a bunch of people lost their jobs in an industry that's getting smaller and smaller every year with all these mass firings, and I worry for the well-being of everyone who lost their job. I'm sorry this happened to you, and I'm sorry you're no longer able to work on this legendary series that seemed to inspire a lot of creativity and passion in you, regardless of your field. And this happening the day before the DLC released, what the fuck? It's cruel. It's just an extra fuck you on top of everything, that you don't even get to feel good on the day your hard work is seen by the fans. And what this did to the player base sucks too. We've been so excited about this expansion, and Microslop had to go and ruin it. Rolling the end credits now feels like staring at a war memorial. It has been a little difficult to fully enjoy this game, knowing that half or a third, whatever, of the people who made it were fired the day before it came out. It doesn't feel right. It's like if your favorite band makes a new album, but the two original guitarist and drummer get kicked out the night before it comes out. If you're more than a casual listener, that's gonna be in your head when you listen to it, and it may not emotionally resonate with you as strongly. In my case, I wasn't in the mood. The news of the layoffs the day before soured me on it, and the next day, I'd only slept 2 hours, so I was incredibly tired when it launched. So I decided to sleep instead. A friend invited me to my favorite bar, and I got some wings and high alcohol content stouts, and after some fun conversation, I was finally in the right mood. We came back to my place around 10 p.m. I guess, and I opened Doom the Dark Ages Revelations. The opening level just dumps you right in, assuming you know how to play. It's a very The Ancient Gods Part 1 approach. You fight your way into hell and eventually get your fucking ass kicked by Hell's henchman after he hulks out into this giant overpowered beast. You can't actually beat him, you're scripted to fail. We finally get to see the Wretch from the Doom 2016 Codex, who comes to save the Doomslayer and set him on his adventure. It's a very God of War 2 setup, when Kratos was killed by Zeus and the Titan Gaia saves him to set him on the path to go kill him in the end. So you end up in Purgatory, the Dark Ages shield is completely broken, and now you're using a new weapon, the Spear. You're taken to a tutorial, and if you played this in the first 2 days, which most people did, you may have gotten a horrible bug. One of the most bewildering bugs I'd seen occur on a game's launch. It sucks to have to start this gameplay review with a bug, but a lot of people experienced it. It has to be addressed. The input display for the Spear commands showed all inputs as question marks. Somehow, something got fucked up, and all the Spear inputs had no key bindings. I don't know if everyone had this bug, but it was widespread enough to where they even had to include a pop-up notification about it in the main menu to tell people it was fixed. Now, as an experienced PC player that regularly changes his keybinds, this bug was no big deal to me. I reset the controls to default, reset my keybinds, and set the keys I wanted for the Spear actions. So yeah, this input display bug was likely a massive confusion for a lot of casual players and reviewers, seeing that no button corresponded to Spear actions, and they had to go to the menu and bind the keys themselves if they even know how to do that. Jesus Christ, what a fucking nightmare of a bug to launch with. Hugo must have been so pissed off. I feel bad. Well, I got past the Spear tutorial, and I was honestly blown away by how different it feels to play this game with the Spear. In a rare instance where I can confidently say I literally speak for everyone, we did not anticipate just how weird the Dark Ages would feel without the shield. 'Cause, yeah, in hindsight it seems obvious. It's the Dark Ages without the ability to block. That's gonna be weird as shit. And it is! The slash parry is a much slower timing and is done a little more in anticipation than on reaction. It is not a substitute for block. If you miss your parry, you're left wide open. The Spear is a movement tool, that's where it shines. It doesn't cover what the shield covers, and the shield doesn't cover what the Spear covers. They complement each other, and neither would feel as important as it does if they shared more features. And to anyone struggling with the limitations of either, how about you give it more than a week? Maybe it's a good thing that there's something to master that makes you think differently. The change to the Spear almost makes it feel like a new game. You have to relearn everything, and I felt like an idiot for hours, messing up so much stuff because I thought I had the shield. It's so new, it's so fresh and bold. It feels like a hybrid of Doom Eternal and the Dark Ages, but it still very much feels like the Dark Ages. It's just that now we have something to truly master and express ourselves with, which was one of the main issues some people had with the base game. As solid as its combat loop was, there wasn't much of a skill ceiling like there was in Eternal. Now, with Revelations and the Spear, the Dark Ages has evolved into something where everyone can play it and master it, but if you want to go above and beyond, there's this extra level of awesomeness. And it couldn't have been done without what the base game defined. Much like how they couldn't have made Eternal first, they needed to make 2016 and then expand on it, the same has happened here. They made a combat loop for the Dark Ages that couldn't really be pushed any further. Even if you didn't like it, it was very solid in the execution of its vision, refined, focused, and taken to its limits. id Software looked at this and said, where do we go from here? Well, we gotta go up. Vertical. And how do we do that? We need a grappling hook. So they've taken the Dark Ages' grounded up-close combat and blended it with Eternal's mobility and attack options. And somehow they actually pulled it off, creating something that feels entirely like its own thing. It doesn't just feel like more Doom Eternal, it feels like more Dark Ages but on crack. The verticality afforded by the meat hook and dash allow for a lot more variety in arena design and just level design in general. And honestly, it's just nice to be able to do something else other than just stomp, stomp, stomp while running from one place to another. Not just grappling, but random dashes while walking around. It's fun. The spear slashes, albeit slowly, also kill fodder demons and break armor. It also has a deceptively long range. It eventually gets upgraded to send a scythe spinning out, cutting enemies in half after you parry a projectile. And the melee parry, to reward the mastering of its timing, applies a great amount of stun, faltering a whiplash and cyber demon in a single parry instead of two, even faltering the double swipe of the Komodo, which never falters from that with a shield. The meat hook stuns midweight demons for a bit, flies in for executions, and can be upgraded to apply armor-dropping fire and even spin 360 around an enemy. When you upgrade it to be able to be used twice in the air, it's game over. I double tap the Mancubus every time like this, and you can double detonate pincushion in the air by backdash canceling the meat hook. The orbital upgrade is absolutely nuts, nice for taking on aerial enemies and circling around Varigaze, which is totally broken. It's a fun ability, but I think it essentially violates the core principle of the game. The Ultra Airborne Eternal players are going nuts over it, but I was never much into flying high that much, so I still stay pretty grounded. I do love these other meat hook abilities though. Being able to execute multiple dazed enemies at a time feels amazing, and using a bar of your empowerment meter grants incredibly powerful abilities. At first you only build it by dashing away from parryable attacks, but you upgrade it to also build with parries and executions. The dash itself can be upgraded to reflect automatic weapons fire, sending the near hit scan bullets of arachnotrons and cyber demons right back at them, so you're not entirely defenseless against them when you don't have the shield equipped. The stab falters anything up to a Mancubus and can be upgraded to stun teleporting enemies like the Witch and the new Archvile. And if you have 2 empowerment bars, you can use a double stab and that will falter even a super heavy demon. My favorite attack is the Spear Slam, a version of Eternal's Hammer but without the ammo replenishment, only deployable after a meat hook, faltering every enemy around, even super heavies, upgradable to drop health and lay down a shocking ground effect that keeps enemies in place. And the spear throw may seem pretty basic at first until you upgrade it to pass through enemy shields, and now you can eliminate Kako demons while they're spamming their bullshit indestructible projectile shields, or penetrate the red shield from Nightmare Imps, and you can upgrade it to break Acolyte shields on sight. It's so cool with an answer to force-fielded enemies, and with the stab instantly heating the armor of even the armored Archvile, they've given us a counterplay to some of the Dark Age's more frustrating enemy behaviors, but at the cost of spear energy. It's not as simple as a sticky grenade into a Kako's mouth, it's a valuable resource that could screw you if you use it inappropriately. And because there's now an easy counter, they can introduce more of these enemies to the combat board, more special heavy and super heavy types, leading to some incredibly intense arena fights, the sights of which we haven't seen since the Eternal Master levels. A good deal of these new spear abilities play into the Dark Age's big focus on faltering. Stab falters, slam falters, spear toss falters, meat hook executions falter. Combine this with the falters from exploding plasma shields, landing from high up, severing a limb, shield bash, and shield recall. The faltering is absolutely out of control, and I love it.
Get fucking faltered! Oh, look at him getting faltered up there. Oh my God. Get fucking faltered.
Get your very own Get Faltered t-shirt at the End of the Mail store. We've got coffee mugs, cell phone cases, and much, much more. Get Faltered at the End of the Mail shop, link below.
One of the most powerful falters in the game is the big upgrade for offhand weapon switch, going from spear to shield or vice versa. Every 10 seconds, you get access to an on-demand guaranteed falter even against super heavies, just by switching weapons. It's a falter shockwave button, essentially, and mastering this is going to lead to some insane sequences. Watch here, I'm going to falter the Agadon Hunter with a parry, falter again with a melee series, then falter again by switching weapons. It's crazy. Once you get the shield back after the first level, the game becomes indisputably brilliant. You can lean into whichever style suits you better. Anyone who rejects the spear because it feels weird to them is making the same mistake as those who rejected Eternal for its bold direction, or rejected Dark Ages for its. Put your insecurities aside, put in the time to figure it out, you'll be glad you did. I put the shield spear switch input on my mouse thumb button, and once it clicked on how to switch between them on the fly, it was a revelation. For as amazing as the spear is, the shield still plays a strong role if you allow it to. Shield toss stuns, bash falters, and shield runes are still incredibly powerful. Switch to the shield strictly to activate a rune on projectile parry, and then go back to spear. Previously, when your shield broke, there was nothing you could do to avoid damage. Now you can switch to the spear and at least try to evade for a few seconds. And if you're rocking the spear, but you're really close to death, the shield is still there for panic defense to make sure you don't take any killing hits on the retreat. And it'll actually get you out of a situation faster due to the speed of the shield bash. And I think one of the nicest things is that it addresses a pretty widespread criticism that the Dark Ages feels like a game where you can just use one gun to beat the game. I feel that criticism is misguided because the design of the game is to be focused on the tools you have outside of your gun choice, all the different shield stuff, falters, melee. But sure, if that wasn't enough for you and you're just using one gun, it bored you. The spear has completely solved this. The Dark Ages feels way better as a 1 or 2 gun game now that our other options are so greatly expanded. It's actually really fun to just use the shotgun, or just the impaler, or shredder, or cycler, or whatever, while mastering block, parry, dash, meat hook, slam, stab, throw. It feels right. And I actually find myself forgetting just how long I've been using the same gun because I'm so mentally engaged by everything else I'm juggling. I think that's what critics of Dark Ages were looking for, and they'll find it here. If this were Eternal and you were supposed to be using 5 or 6 different guns, I think the mental load would be overwhelming. There's already so much to balance that my mind locks up when I run out of ammo just using one gun. I can't imagine having to cycle through all of them. This DLC is packed with combat encounters to push you to adapt and get good. Not only are there special arena fights to be found while re-exploring each of the 4 levels, there are 4 master arenas to take on after beating the secret boss. I mean, they've just given us so much content here to dive deep into this incredible combat system, and do it in style, rocking my Doom 2016 Praetor suit and my unlockable Doom Eternal themed HUD and my custom Mayo face mod. But they couldn't have made all this greatness without having made the Dark Ages first. This combat is too good to have come out with right out of the gate. They needed a strong foundation first. And it might just be the best combat id Software has ever designed, which would make it the best combat designed in any game ever. I'm happy to say that, and I'll stand by it. I think this is the new top. Look, I don't know how balanced it all is, especially after the upgrades allowing for super heavies to be easily cheesed with the orbital meat hook ability, but I have been having a fucking blast and getting my shit pushed in fight after fight. And the DLC has the best boss fights in maybe the entire series, though I am partial to the Con Maker fight. I ultimately didn't like Azrak too much because he was just parry me bro the boss, and here we have bosses that play on everything the game has to offer. Evasion, parries, aggression, falter states, resource management, shield functionality, spear movement. They're anywhere from good to amazing. Though, spoilers for the final secret boss, I know I'm far from the only one who was disappointed in him just being a giant pain elemental. Did they run out of time or what? I mean, it does look cool as a giant pain elemental, but I mean, is a giant normal enemy really a boss? What if it was just a giant imp model? The fight itself is excellent, a really fun mix of platforming elements and a few other enemies tossed in for good measure. I had a great time figuring him out, and then we get access to 4 master arenas to further test our skills. It's an epic wrap-up to a huge game expansion. Before we move on to the individual enemy discussion, I'd like to comment a bit on the execution mechanic of the Dark Ages and how it feels in Revelations. Increased enemy numbers make the Dark Ages change to executions over synced animation glory kills work even better, and with the slash upgrade executing multiple enemies at once, the DLC brings this vision more in line with what it could have been. I strongly believe that the quick execution system of the Dark Ages, featuring sporadic actual glory kills, works way better for the flow of this particular game. I wouldn't want it in 2016 or Eternal. But it allows for uninterrupted action and denser fights. Dark Ages has a lot more enemies on the board, and constant glory kills would really mess up the flow. But while the flow is benefited by this change, the disappointment is very understandable due to the fact that the executions are just single melee strikes that don't result in gory animations. I think the Actman made a really good point in his review when he expressed dismay at the lack of ultra-violent deaths.
It wasn't just like mindless action, but to reinforce the idea that this is why Doom Guy is the only thing they fear. When you see how he kills the demons, you know why they fear him.
With more attention paid to the execution feature, it could still have been a quick single hit, but we could have seen heads popping off, torsos spilling their guts out, punching through someone's chest, etc. So the flow works, but the violence level doesn't. However, with the DLC, the actual number of glory kills has gone up. You'll be brutally murdering a lot more of the super heavies specifically. The Spear Slash also adds in a nice bit of gore by having clean cuts through torsos instead of doing melee executions. And with the multi-execution upgrade, the enemy numbers can be pushed even higher. I think that's pretty awesome, though I definitely miss the extreme over-the-top gore of glory kills. And I really miss the guaranteed iframes. The other games didn't have a problem with someone walking in front of you and blocking your glory kill. There are a few enemies that have challenging new variants, the Agadon Hunter, the Cosmic Baron, versions that have new attacks and new evasive maneuvers. They are tough to take down. And the new common enemies are suitably brutal. The Buzzsaw, despite being pretty simple, can put up a good fight with his heavily armored shield. If you're a precision player, you can target his small opening on top of the shield. You can shield bash in during the spin and hope to make contact with him behind the shield. You can hit him with an aerial parry-charged rocket for an instant daze state. They don't really become a huge nuisance in the campaign, but in the Ripatorium, higher numbers can become wild. The Warlock is a new super type of witch enemy that buffs everyone with shields and floods the screen with fog. These buffed enemies aren't just more durable, they attack at lightning speed. Don't fight a buffed Agadon Hunter, just trust me. The Cosmic Elemental is a wonderful new harassment unit, far more formidable than his Eternal counterpart. A lot more health and a bunch of projectiles. He's got a weakness to explosives, so you can knock all 6 of his skulls out with a rocket or two, or a pincushion blast, or even a spear toss. The return of enemy-specific weaknesses is very welcome. I imagine many players are struggling with him, finding him just straight up annoying, like his Doom 2 counterpart. But you just gotta figure out your approach. For me, I do a spear stun slam into Dread Mace, and from there you can make short work of him with a couple meat hooks into SSG. Having a parry charge rocket ready for him is nice. Using pincushion with meat hook dash cancels is really good. You'll just need a little patience. Nightmare variations of the Whiplash and Revenant aren't just invisible versions, they have souped up attacks, throwing more projectiles, and the Whiplash leaves a toxic waste trail, which is super annoying. They're a great reminder of the shield's usefulness, with the shield toss taking them out of their invincible state, but a Falter does the same thing, so maybe Spear Slam next to them, or use a Ground Falter. Since you're a lot more airborne in this DLC, you'll be doing a lot of ground falters. Recognize when they're about to happen, and be ready to capitalize on the falter state. Ground falter a Nightmare Revenant, attack, refalter with shield bash, and he's done. And if you're going to toss the shield, remember you can switch right back to the spear while they're stunned. Blighted Hell Knights are supercharged with speed and can slam into the ground to charge an AoE blast that either has to be dashed or blocked with the shield or cover, but you can falter them to take them out of the attack easy. And of course, the star of the show, the Archvile. I can't imagine how many people hate this guy, and what I say to that is good. You should hate the Archvile. In every game, the Archvile should be making you rage. He killed us in so many bullshit moments in Doom 2, he was the ultimate noob killer in Doom Eternal, and here is no different. Constantly summoning ethereal enemies that are just a waste of resources to kill, while he teleports away like a little bitch, hiding behind walls of fire projectiles and an actual wall of shields. When he shows up, it's misery. He's an enemy that has to be figured out. How are you going to take him on? Are you going to wait for all the shields so you can break them and go in? Stay back and damage him long range through his projectile barrage? Stay airborne and pepper him from above? Or spear slam down for the falter and unload with melee? Use your spear stab to stun him once, and stab him a second time to falter him, and then focus him down. What a beautifully designed enemy. Something to master, and it's going to feel good when you take him down like it's nothing. And how can I forget the MVP of the DLC, the health zombie? I can't be the only person who cringed a little when they saw this obvious blue health icon on a zombie. I said, come on, we don't need that. We already heal from zombies when we kill them at low health. It seems a little too hand-holdy. I couldn't have been more wrong. Thank the Lord we have these guys sprinkled around the arenas. They've saved my ass in so many critical situations. They're necessary for this new combat intensity to work. Guys, I don't know the last time I had this much fun mastering a game. Maybe Sifu in 2022. This is a full-on adrenaline rush, and all I want to do is play it in every waking moment. It scares me a bit to say I think it's better than Doom Eternal, or it would be if this DLC was a full game. But they're very different, and Eternal means a lot more to me. It's a more important game in the history of games. But I think Revelations has figured out this vision and pushed it to its full potential. Currently, I can say it's my favorite of the trilogy. It's the one I want to play. Okay, I've gushed enough about the gameplay. What about the rest? Well, here I'll be a man of few words. The levels look really cool. I love the bone level the most, but damn, that cosmic realm is really cool. Many beautiful sights are scattered across the game, providing awesome bits of history and stunning moments. It's a beautiful looking game. And for me, the performance on PC has been excellent. I enjoyed most of the puzzle sections that break up the combat using the shield and spear together. They're much more interesting puzzles than the base game. It's kind of like the puzzle rooms in modern God of War, which aren't bad when you don't have a side character blurting out hints about what to do. The music is also a step up. I'm not a big fan of Finishing Moves' soundtrack for the base game outside of a few moments, but there's more I find enjoyable this time around. Some more standout melodies, good synth work, and more industrial elements. I really like the wood instruments, all whatever's going on the first level's track. It's still not my style, and I think a lot of it still has a lot of that sameness, but there were more moments where I found myself noticing points where I was into it, and the regular appearance of 90s Doom melodies stood out to me a lot more this time around. Pretty cool. I can see this soundtrack growing on me in a way the base campaigns didn't. As for the story, I really haven't been into the Doom narrative since Tag 2, and the Dark Ages campaign didn't give me what I was looking for in terms of what it's about and the pace in which it was delivered. But I was more or less interested in the story of Revelations. Shorter, more focused, and I liked that we saw the story through the view of several characters. We're left wondering how it's all going to play out after this. Hopefully we find out someday. The best moment in the game is obviously when we finally see the wretch put together the Praetor suit, and wow, that was so cool. When the story ends, it's not over. Revelations has many unlockable areas in its worlds, and many secrets to find while you're revisiting with the shield. Turning a flamethrower so it can burn an ice wall, for example. It's a cool Metroidvania edge that offers new currencies to upgrade the final slots of the spear abilities and suit powers. There's challenges that award currency, classic maps that unlock a new super weapon, being the 1993 Doom shotgun, and eventually you'll find 8 pieces of the Astral Key to fight the hidden boss. Regarding those classic Doom maps, the classic shotgun feels so good, and I could definitely see a stripped-down classic reboot of the original games working in this new engine. But for as much as I like discovering these extra challenges, once you've cleared the level but you've realized there's more currency to go back and find, re-exploring these levels simply isn't fun when everything is dead. There are some fights, but you end up with a lot of empty time and backtracking. The worst part is trying to find that last bit of blood iron you need for the final upgrade. See, they've gone back to a true exploration model for these maps, as opposed to the base campaign's model of showing all the secrets on the map in advance. This change has its positives and negatives. Positive is that you're actually discovering the entire secret. It's more satisfying to spot it yourself, and I felt that enjoyment. The negative is that looking for them can heavily impact the pacing of the experience. That's why I always defended the campaign's way of doing it. You're meant to keep moving along at a brisk pace, and I thought it was perfectly sufficient to have the locations of secrets marked on the map while still leaving it up to you to discover how to access them through hidden entrances or using explosives or whatever. With the DLC's lack of markings and the big empty levels now that everything's dead, I'm sorry, but I don't find it fun to be looking all over the map for coins for a couple hours. Eventually I said, whatever, I've found enough, I don't need those last spear upgrades, I'll just finish the content like this. It's not like there's a new game plus to go into. It's a small criticism, I was still able to get 95% there on my first playthrough, and I'm not angry I couldn't find the last bit without help, I just got bored. Maybe it would be less boring if I could actually replay the level with all the combat there. You know, watching this part in the editing process, I have a feeling a bunch of people are gonna freak out about it. So here's some extra context. In Doom 2016 and in Eternal also, I like the true secret hunting, and it's part of the original's identity, of course. I just think the Dark Ages campaign and the size of the levels worked well with the telegraphed secrets. And a big factor is that the Dark Ages is a very build-centric game, as opposed to the others. And as the game goes on, I'm more okay with not finding or straight up ignoring secrets because I've already upgraded the tools that I'm using for this run. I've got 5 guns I'm not using, so I don't need the currency to upgrade them. There's no real pressure to do 100% completion. But the Revelations DLC is different. The blood currency you're finding in the endgame is specifically for unlocking your final spear and suit upgrades. And there does not seem to be much excess, if any, compared to the silver, of which the game gives you more than enough. You gotta find all this stuff, and if you don't, you're not gonna be able to fully upgrade the spear. And the spear is everything, dude. I want every single one of these final upgrades. But hunting down that last bit of blood iron in these mostly empty maps just isn't my idea of fun. It's fine, whatever, it doesn't matter, it's just a small thing, and like I said, there are positives and negatives to this approach. Just leave me alone, okay? So I took my bored ass into the Ripatorium to see 3 new arenas based on the DLC, now with access to all the new demons and the fully upgraded spear. And hot damn, I had the time of my life on stream working through the new difficulty presets, spending hours trying to survive. I could feel myself getting better and better every time. I was never much into the Ripatorium, but this time around with the spear gameplay, I'm into it. It rounds out a very complete experience, making the DLC nearly perfect, at least for the first playthrough. As great as I think Revelations is, certain things about it start to bog down my experience on repeat playthroughs. The flashback sequences were awesome, but I don't want to do them anymore. All the revisiting of old areas to find currency to complete the spear upgrades isn't something I really enjoy doing again. And I think it's a real shame that we can't replay levels with our upgrades. The base game has a level select, Eternal's DLC had level select, but because this is all a big hub world built around backtracking exploration and upgrading, they haven't given us the option. It's pretty sad that we get all these upgrades and can't play the whole game again with them. A New Game Plus difficulty would be great for that, and I know we're probably not going to get that now that the studio has been ravaged, but at least let us play it normally, give us a reset level progress upon re-entry from the hub, cause I don't really want to go through the whole process of unlocking 35 upgrades every time I play this thing. Eternal's DLC was so replayable because you didn't have to do any of that, you had your full kit and you just played. The ease of level select has become more and more of an issue for me as I've been making this review, wanting to just replay something to capture footage. I open the game thinking I want to go to the Bone Desert level, but it loads me into my last checkpoint in the Frozen level, so I gotta open the map and look for the fucking shrine because that's the only way to exit to the Purgatory hub. I can't just exit to Purgatory, there's no option for that in the escape menu. I have to go to the shrine every time, and then I gotta run and dash all over Purgatory to find the portal to take me to the Bone level. It's the same issue I had with the God of War reboot, where they took the simple level select for challenges and turned them into this big mountain where you have to tediously climb for 3 minutes between every challenge. I don't like Doom being like this. The first time was cool as part of the adventure, but on repeat plays, I'm not liking it. I just want to go to the level, or at minimum be able to instantly go to the hub. Cause look, maybe I want to replay one of those badass Praetor challenges. Well, not only can I not just select that challenge from a menu, I can't even go directly to the level that has the challenge. I gotta load into whatever level I was in last time, backtrack to the nearest shrine, load the Purgatory level, look at the progress screen again, close that, navigate myself to the next level's portal, load that level, and then warp to somewhere near the Praetor challenge using this awkward zoomed in map where I don't recognize any of these places at all because they're so zoomed in. I gotta activate free map and look around for where I'm supposed to go, and then relate the shape of the room containing the nearest shrine to the shortcut in the list. Oh god, I think I'm losing my mind. Overall, I'd say this DLC is a grander and more satisfying total experience than the Ancient Gods, but I don't know if it has the replayability of Tag 1, which was so smooth and direct. What I gotta hope for now is a PC mod master campaign for both main game and DLC where we have everything upgraded. I don't know how to wrap this up other than saying Doom the Dark Ages Revelations is the best game expansion I've ever played for a single player game. It's made with so much love and respect for the fanbase. It wonderfully blends together the gameplay strengths of all 3 modern Dooms, creating arguably the best Doom experience of all time. If this is the end of big budget Doom, it's a hell of a way to go out. And if it's not, well, that's great. My hope is that people who wrote off the Dark Ages for whatever reason will give it a chance because they're missing out on something brilliant. Thank you to everyone who made this game possible. Thank you to those who are no longer at the studio for giving us this incredible game. And thank you, the viewer of this video, to the new viewers, to the casual viewers, and those of you who are still with me after this long bumpy road. Take care of yourselves, and take care of somebody else.